Thank you very much, the chair. Thank you very much for the introduction and distinguished guests. Good morning, everyone. Yes, we need to go back to our roots. What do I mean by our root? Maybe let's begin with the statistics. What does the statistic tell us? Okay, yeah. If we look at world hunger statistics, perhaps you might be familiar with this report. 1 in 9, as of 2019, 1 in 9 go to bed on an empty stomach each night. Think of it. If you go to bed on an empty stomach, the chances you wake up very hungry the following morning. And then to worsen it, 1 in 3 suffer from some form of malnutrition. This was 2019, and imagine this was pre-COVID. And then if we fast forward a little bit, the hunger map as at 2021, based on the FAO report, 2019 to 2021, this is the hunger map that you can see on your screen. And if you look at that screen, the darker the color of that part of the map, the more prevalent the problem. So when we look at hunger map, if you look at African continent compared to some other continents, does it not smell, does it not indicate that there is a problem in Africa? Okay, if we move forward again, if we look at the food insecurity map, again, the darker the color, the more the prevalence of the problem. When you look at African map as well, you see that there is a real problem presented according to that statistic. Yes, African has a problem related to food security, related to hunger, and I believe African problem requires African solution. No one is going to solve African problem for Africans. We need to look inward. And so one of the strategies that has been promoted or advocated for combating food insecurity as well as problem of hunger is the promotion of fruit and vegetable consumption around the world. No wonder 2021, last year, was tagged by the FAO as the International Year of Fruit and Vegetables. So last year, how many fruit and vegetables did you consume? And this year, how many have you consumed? Perhaps you are familiar with these particular vegetables. Swiss chard on the left-hand side. Some people often call it spinach. Yes, some of us hardly does a week pass without eating on this one in various forms, no matter the recipe. And what about the one on the right-hand side, cabbage? Yes, maybe in your coleslaw, you eat it almost every week, if not on a more frequent basis. What about these vegetables? Yes. Do you know any of them? Amaranth, cocoros, some of the local names are also put in brackets there. Have you eaten any of them before? How do you feel looking at them? Are you proud to even eat them? Or do you associate them as a poor man's food, which is the stigma that some of these vegetables carry, or considered as weed? Yes, people consider them as weed, and some people who are raised with this, when they come to urban areas, they feel like, no, we were raised because we were poor, so we don't want to eat it. Okay, this presentation is to highlight that these African leafy vegetables, they've got nutritional values that want our reconsideration. A closer look at them will convince you that we actually need to value what belongs to Africa. Yes, African solution to African problems. The African leafy vegetables have been proven by the research conducted that they are rich sources of vitamins, calcium, zinc, and iron. They have a lot of medicinal properties, and most importantly, they are part of the culinary tradition of our local people. We grew up, some of us, we grew up with this. And so why are they not in the formal market? Why? It's a question that we all need to find answers to. If you look at some of the research indicators we have here, this graph shows when we did a comparison of Swiss chard or spinach with the cabbage, as well as one of our African leafy vegetables, that is cleome. You notice cleome has got more nutritious value than some of these commonly consumed vegetables. If you look at the phosphorus content, if you look at the potassium content, calcium content, iron and zinc are especially macronutrients that for which Africa is struggling with the deficiency. And when we look at the data, of course, cleome supersede in terms of the content compared to some of these commonly consumed vegetables. And if you look at some other ones that are not even highlighted in the arrow here, you notice that, of course, they compare favorably. They are not the cleome is not the least of when we compare some of these nutritious value of it. And then we went further to also look at the antioxidant activity of it. A comparison showed that it's even the highest when compared to Swiss chard as well as cabbage. Of course, we know the production method and some other factors can influence the nutritious value as well as the antioxidant activity of this. But the point is that this African vegetable, we just use cleome just as an example to indicate that they can be more nutritious than what we think. And so, in terms of other attractive characteristics of this crop, they are able to grow on low fertility soil, the so-called marginal soils. They have high relative drought tolerance. They have fast growth rate. No wonder they grow widely as wheat. Yes, they require low production input. And they are mostly collected from the field because they easily grow everywhere. They are seldom cultivated. Yes, they've got potential to be developed further into niche crops. No wonder they found potential in product development. These are some of the products that you find on the market. This one is packaged by a company. They label it as Imoya food. What does it contain? Basically, leaf powder of amaranth. And in fact, in the label, they mentioned that it can be used in smoothies. Yes, there have been cases where people use it in smoothies, in shakes, in soups, and in stews. More than that, in ARC, we've also developed products from some of these African leafy vegetables. For instance, on your left-hand side, you see the one that is branded as Nala Morocco bread. This is basically making use of grain amaranth, the grains from amaranth, the seed, to make that product. And that is a gluten-free food. So it's actually a niche product. What about incorporating it into a cake? The one you see in the middle, this is another product that was developed here in ARC. We've also seen so many other products, jams, into packaging it into capsules in form of nutraceuticals, making it into noodles, the one that was done in collaboration with some stakeholders where you have 2-minute noodles with Morocco. And then you also have the one that is in form of porridge. You see on the right-hand side, pure. So the sky is the limit as to the amount of product that can come from this. We need to start valuing what we have. We've looked at one of the critical factors that can make or mar the product from this crop is the sustainable production. You need to have it sustainably produced so that you can have regular raw materials for this product. And no wonder ARC conducted commercial trials on some of these leafy vegetables. The picture you see here is the one of amaranth, for example. So what is the take-home message from this? Please, when you see African leafy vegetables the next time, consider them as highly nutritious. They are not poor man's food as people think. If they were poor man's food, how come that we grew up with it? And of course, we were raised with it and we didn't really suffer so much like that as people would think. Yes, they are highly nutritious as research indicators have shown. They can provide necessary micronutrients, phytochemicals, and vitamins that are needed to counteract malnutrition problems. They can be developed into inexpensive superfood as illustrated with some of those pictures. And then they can form component of diversified healthy diet and food diversification program. And so I leave you with this final thought. Africa is known as a diversity-rich continent, including our rich white vegetables. Yet, Africa is often pictured as an undernourished continent with food insecurity problem. Is that not a paradox? Shouldn't we go back to our roots and value what we have and develop it further, finding African problem for Africans, finding African solution to African problem? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Unfortunately, we don't have any time left for questions. And in closing, I would like to thank all of the speakers for your interesting presentation, which we have learned a lot from, and to all participants for your active engagement, especially